Welcome to Breakfast with Brent. Today I want to talk about a rabbit hole. I've been down a lot of rabbit holes in my day, and this is one of the most interesting, fascinating rabbit holes that I've ever been down. It's very entertaining, fascinating, and I recommend that you do your own search of the rabbit hole, that you do your own background, find out more out about this, but it's probably not something that you want to have kids around for because it's going to talk about Afro Man. And who is Afro Man? A bad comic book character? No, he's a rap singer. Now, you have to understand, I'm not a big rap fan, and I don't use drugs. So if you do, that's your choice. That's up to you. But Efferman's primary history has been a rapper and using drugs. He raps about drugs, primarily marijuana. And as a rapper, he says some things that are kind of out there. And I didn't really know who Afro Man was, but he did have a song back 30, 40 years ago called Because I Got High. And if you heard it, you probably remember it. But that's not what the story is about. Before I start in on the story, let me give you a little disclaimer. First of all, I am very supportive of law enforcement. Used to work in the deputy sheriff's office as a deputy in the corrections facility. I have a lot of respect for law enforcement. I should say good law enforcement, but I am aware there are law enforcement people out there that aren't that good. But most of them I think are. Anyway, the story really starts when Afro Man had his house burglarized and the sheriff's office of Adams County in, I think, Ohio, came to visit and check it out, investigate. And they really, like with many burglaries, they really didn't have a lot of evidence, a lot to go on. They have a lot going on. And Afro Man was pretty insistent that, and calling and checking and getting updates. And there really weren't any. And they finally told him, quit calling, which I don't think is a good thing, but they did it, apparently. Well, Afro Man had a friend who was in methamphetamines, apparently. And Afro Man and this female friend, they were not romantic at all that I know of. But anyway, they kind of went their own ways. And the person who was using the methamphetamines started becoming an informant for the police. And they gave information to the police, or the sheriff's office, not the police, that there were drugs and kidnapping victims from trafficking people at the small farm that Afro Man had with his wife and two kids. It's a 5-acre farm, so he's doing okay. But Afro Man was doing a show, I don't remember where, but somewhere he was doing a show, and the sheriff's office shows up. They get a search warrant, a no-knock search warrant, which means they're breaking in the door. They don't have to knock. They mess up his gate. They break down his door, They cut the cables to the surveillance cable or the cameras, his security cameras that he had, but they did that later in the search. And the first officer through the door flips off the camera, the security camera. He said he was reaching for a light switch that wasn't there. So it makes you kind of wonder about the truth of the accusation or the truth of the reasoning. Anyway, Afro Man is again at the show, gets a call from his neighbor, and his neighbor tells him there's police all over your property. And so he gets on the security cameras and starts watching them. And the cops just totally destroyed the door jamb and door. They break his gate. And after they realized they were on video, they cut the cameras and said they were going to take the videos, thinking there was some kind of tape or something, and use them as evidence, and they didn't take them. So either they're inept or they're lying, one or the other, I don't know. Well, total cost of repairs of all the damages that the officers caused was about $22,000. So he asked them to pay him back, to pay for the damage they caused, because they didn't find big trafficking drugs. They didn't find anybody who was being held against their will. So he logically just asked them to pay it back. They said no. And they also took $5,000. They had recorded that they took $5,000 of his. And when he went back to the police station to get the money, there was only $4,600 there. They said it was an adding error. So either they're inept or they're corrupt. There's really not a whole lot of in between. Anyway, as things go on, Afro Man decides he needs to make his money back, and so he can pay for the door and pay for the gate and all the other stuff. So he's a kind of a comedian too. So he does what he does. He made rap songs, and I emphasize songs about the search to try to sell them so that people will help pay for his door and gate. Reasonable to me. They weren't real flattering songs, but I have to admit that they're the first rap songs I really have enjoyed. The rap videos are wonderful to watch. I think one of them is titled "Help Me Pay for My Door" or "Help Me Pay for My Gate" or whatever. Anyway, they weren't, like I said, they weren't real flattering. So after a while, the police got mad and sued Afro Man for almost $4 million. Now, one officer is seen in the search eyeing this pound cake that he has, lemon pound cake that he has on the counter. And so in the song, one of the songs or two of the songs, Afro Man refers to the lemon pound cake and this officer, and the officer testified in court that he got pound cake after pound cake after pound cake sent to him at the police station, which is, I'm sure he didn't need any of them because it would be really safe Anyway, they went on to the lawsuit, and you have to understand, Afro Man did the first, before he made the videos, he did what most people should do. He sued the people, the sheriff's office, for the $22,000 to pay back for the damage they caused. And it never even got to court. I don't understand why. Anyway, in the lawsuit, the defense attorney, Afroman's attorney, made the officers read the lyrics of whatever song they were suing about. They made the court listen to the songs, and the songs are hilarious. And the officers, they have video of them in court, and quite frankly, it wasn't the most professional testifying I've seen. They were, I'm reluctant to say anything bad simply because I don't want to tarnish other officers, but they were slouching. One of them appeared to have dirty hair. One of them was crying, all kinds of stuff. One of the officers even said that he got divorced because of this. And of course, the defense attorney called the ex-wife, who said nonsense. It had nothing to do with that. Anyway, the judge gave 45 minutes of instructions to the jury after the trial, which is, sure the judge did it for a reason, but I'd cover every base, I don't know, but 45 minutes is a long time for jury instructions. Anyway, the jury came back after about 6 hours and found that the Afro Man was not at fault, that they got no money. So it's definitely worth looking up. I would not have expected that a rap singer who sings primarily about marijuana would be an American First Amendment right, freedom of speech, would be a leader in that. But he is. After the court hearing, one of the reporters asked, "How does it feel to win?" And Afro Man said, "It's a win for America." He didn't take credit for a win for himself. He took credit for a win for America. And it really was. Not very often would I ever want a rapper or a rapper about marijuana to come to dinner. But I would love to have Afro Man and his family. If you're ever in Oregon, you got an open invitation for dinner. So just let me know. Thanks for listening. Bye.